Let's talk about iodine. Now, I've talked about iodine before. It's in the Wheat Belly Total Health program, it's in the Undoctored Wild Naked Unwashed program, but I feel like the iodine message hasn't gotten fully through. In fact, some people do my program and say, I'm not losing weight, or I don't feel good, or I'm cold, I'm tired. Well, part of the solution is to make sure you're getting iodine. So, why have Americans become so deficient in iodine? Well, first of all, virtually all the world's iodine is in the ocean. And the further inland you live, the less potential you have to be exposed to obtain iodine. If you live coastally, the food grown coastally or livestock raised coastally will have some iodine. And of course, if you eat seafood or seaweed, you'll get more iodine. But the further inland you are, the more potential there is for iodine deficiency. So much so that where I live in Wisconsin or Michigan or Illinois, Indiana, Missouri, Ohio, used to be called the goiter belt. And that's because we obtained so little iodine that thyroid glands would enlarge. And this was a huge public health problem up until the first several decades of the 20th century. Goiters would kill people. Mothers who had goiters and they were pregnant would deliver a child with a mental impairment. A huge public health problem. Until it was recognized in the 1920s that it was due to lack of iodine in inland populations primarily. So the FDA passed a regulation encouraging salt manufacturers to add iodine to their salt. Morton's iodized salt slogan for many years was, use more iodized salt, keep your family goiter free. Americans listened to this advice, and goiters essentially disappeared into the middle of the 20th century. Well, use of salt made some people, particularly grain-consuming people, hypertensive and have other health implications of excessive salt exposure. So the FDA said, quit using all that salt. Well, guess what happens over many years? Goiters come back, thyroid dysfunction reappears. So we now have a nation, because we've been told to cut back on iodized salt, and we're not all consuming seaweed, seafood all the time, and certainly not consuming the thyroid glands of animals that also has iodine. We're seeing a resurgence of goiter and thyroid dysfunction. Thyroid dysfunction shows up as mild hypothyroidism, low energy, fatigue, sleepiness, inability to lose weight, thinning hair, leg edema. It's so easy to correct. Take iodine. You can get it from salt, but that's not really a reliable way to obtain your iodine. One of the problems with iodized salt is not the salt. The salt's fine. In fact, I encourage people to use salt once they're grain-free. It's once you open the canister, the iodine is volatile, and it's gone within 3 to 4 weeks. So that canister of salt does indeed provide iodine if you go through it very rapidly. And you don't quite know how much you're getting. So I advocate taking iodine supplements such as kelp tablets or potassium iodide drops. I prefer kelp only because it provides a mixture of iodine forms, potassium iodate, sodium iodate, molecular iodine, iodinated proteins, etc. Because nobody really knows what the ideal form of iodine is, and there may be different benefits to different forms. So I opt in favor of doing it the natural way, which is getting kelp tablets because it mimics eating kelp, seaweed, okay? And we try to obtain more than the recommended daily allowance. The RDA is 150 micrograms per day for an adult. Where'd that come from? It was based on observations of how much iodine was required to not have a goiter. But there's more to health and thyroid performance than not having a goiter. So I aim for what I think is the ideal range of iodine, which is 350, 400, or 500 micrograms per day. I've never seen toxicity. I've only seen benefits at that dose. There are people who take mega doses and they get toxic over time. So don't do that. That's a very bad conversation that some people are having. They think that high doses of iodine are somehow good for you. They're not. They're toxic over time. So iodine is a necessary nutrient for your thyroid gland to function because your thyroid gland produces the T3 and T4 thyroid hormones that regulate metabolism. The 3 and the 4 refer to the number of iodine atoms per thyroid hormone molecule. If you don't have enough iodine, your thyroid gland fails to produce enough thyroid hormone. You get tired and fatigued and cold, and over time your thyroid gland enlarges. It becomes a goiter. Now there's other benefits to iodine because people often ask, I don't have a thyroid gland, they took it out, usually unnecessarily by the way, but do I still need iodine? Yes, iodine has other functions, including breast health for women. fibrocystic breast disease is probably one manifestation of iodine deficiency. So getting iodine is not an option any more than getting vitamin C is an option. If you don't get vitamin C, you get scurvy, your teeth fall out, your joints fall apart, you develop open skin sores. So it's not optional. Likewise, iodine is not an option. But understand this issue, correct it, and you have yet another way to regain magnificent health via the wheat belly, total health, and the undoctored pathways.